Welcome to an interesting review of what has recently transpired in Honey. The holy city as the earth continues to heat up and icebergs continue to melt. We're seeing amazing things that beyond our wildest dreams and arouse our curiosity in the Kaaba, which is the center and hub of the Muslim religion. A snowstorm has occurred. This study will examine this one-of-a-kind event that took place there. We cannot look at this event without thinking about how it might relate to old prophecies and end-of-the-world thoughts and affect them. As we learn more about the subject, we can't help but think about the exciting possibilities of what this could mean in a broader sense, including how the Bible speaks of the Antichrist and the Prophet. Get ready for a study that will make you to question what you think you know, as well as the ideas and that make up our world. What lessons can we learn from these strange events? Should we see them as God's punishment? We need to learn more about. This is an interesting subject. People who believe in God were interested in the snow falling on the Kaaba in Honey, and they thought it might have been a sign from God. There are biblical references to snow as a symbol of the forgiveness of sins, like in Psalm 57. It says, "Purify me and I shall be whiter than snow." And in Isaiah 1:18 it talks about how God's goodness can turn sins into pure snow. Besides, when snow falls on a holy place like the Kaaba, it reminds people that the Bible talks about lying teachers and prophets. Deuteronomy 18:20. If we take a closer look to the spiritual and prophetic significance of this unusual event, we see that these biblical texts are connected to what is happening now with the snow in the Kaaba. The Kaaba, the black stone located in the middle of this heavenly cube, is a very important artifact kept in the Kaaba. The Kaaba. Many people like this stone, and some even think it's a gift from God to man, but some beliefs say that Satan is also trying to deceive people by pretending to be Christ. The black stone has been the subject of many stories and ideas for hundreds of years. People have wondered about it and honored it. Religious and historical experts. It is said that the stone was honored by Arab groups in the area even before it became part of Islam. Some say it came from outer space, and others say it's a meteorite, which adds to its wonder and sanctity. But the idea that Satan might try to look like Christ comes from history in both Islam and Christianity about the end of the world. When the Antichrist comes out in the end times, he or she will deceive believers. These stories often warn against his or her tricks. So some people may have took the storm in Mecca as a sign of things to come, that such things were about to happen. Also, it's important to think about the bigger picture of history and culture because of its long past and spiritual significance. Mecca has always been the site of important religious events in the city, where people were born and where the Prophet received the teachings of the Quran. Meet each year to perform Hajj. For hundreds of years it has been a place of worship and pilgrimage. That strange weather phenomena can have a spiritual message. Is not new. Throughout history, many natural phenomena have been seen as signs from God. One example is the eclipse that occurred at the time of Jesus' crucifixion. Many people considered it a sacred sign. Because of this, some followers today can see a blizzard in Honey in the same way. Throughout history there have been many instances of natural events that have been seen as divine. In the Hebrew tradition, one of the Of the most important events was the discovery. The Red Sea in the Christian tradition. The birth of Jesus was marked by the appearance of the Star of Bethlehem. The incident with the elephant when Abraham tried to destroy the Kaaba but was stopped by bird throws. The stones are seen as a miracle, keeping the holy place safe. To see the prophetic trees and fruits is the fact that the name of Allah can be found on trees and fruits is one of the most common cases of people have said that they have seen the word Allah or phrases from the Quran naturally formed on tree trunks, leaves and even watermelons and tomatoes. People believe in these miracles and see them as a constant reminder that God is present in all of creation. Another example of how clouds can form. Arabic words like Allah or Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, and tsunamis. In the past, natural tragedies such as earthquakes and tsunamis were often seen as punishment from God. For example, in 2004, the terrible earthquake and tsunami in the Indian Ocean was seen by some religious leaders as a heavenly message to stop doing bad things and to follow the rules of the Quran in Islamic theology. This view of things comes from the idea that the Quran says that ancient countries were destroyed because they turned their backs on two volcanic explosions. This lens can also be used to observe volcanic eruptions. People often associate the damage caused by volcanoes to the punishments described in the Quran for people who don't believe God's prophets. So these events are seen as signs of adherence God's teachings, miracles and cures that wouldn't make sense about healing attributed to the Quran. Many people said that they miraculously heal music illnesses. This shows how faith and prayer are important. In times of natural disasters, there are also stories of people who have miraculously been saved from natural disasters, and it is believed that this was due to God's help through the Quran. For example, there are reports of houses that are still standing in the aftermath of natural disasters while everything else around them has been destroyed. It is said that in most cases the people living in these houses are devotees, Muslims who often recite the Quran, which the community sees as proof that they are protected. God's things that happen in the cosmos. 1. Eclipses and comets. Solar and lunar eclipses and the arrival of comets are seen as signs of God in Islam. This time in the sky is often seen as a time for prayer and meditation. According to Islamic custom, Muslims during an eclipse should recite special prayers of Salat al. They see these times as a chance to remember how great God is. And how weak human beings are. 2. Falling stars. The Quran speaks of shooting stars as a weapon that God uses to protect himself from the devils who try to eavesdrop on heavenly conversations. This interpretation of the Quran gives the natural event a spiritual meaning that supports the idea that divine forces are always watching over the world and protect it. As to understand historical catastrophes, disasters destroying ancient cities, the Quran speaks of ancient societies like Hel and Samit that were destroyed by natural disasters because they didn't follow God's rules. People often remember these stories when modern day natural disasters and see them as constant warnings that breaking God's rules can lead to severe punishments. 2. Floods and droughts. Severe floods and droughts were also seen as signs of God in Islam's past. Such things were seen as tests of faith or punishment. people often thought that droughts were a sign. Were a sign that they should pray more. To pray and help others by asking God to forgive and pity them. These examples show how religious beliefs can change the understanding of natural phenomena. They serve as evidence of faith and the ongoing process of figuring out of what divine signs mean in the world. They show NASCO that the events of nature are linked to a spirituality that helps believers experience the presence and God's power in their daily lives. That's why snow falling in a strange place like the Kaaba could easily be seen as a spiritual event of great importance. It makes us to consider how the natural and magical worlds, between the natural and magical worlds, and how events that occur in the physical world can have a great impact on the spiritual world. And last but not least, the snow falling on the Kaaba is more than just a weather phenomenon at this moment. History, religion and prophetic interpretation come together. Each person has their own unique perspective on this. But it's an event that makes us all to think deeply about our place in the world and our connection to God. Our own thoughts come from God. This is the third sin: to lie. God did not tolerate the prophets lying about that they said came from God, though they knew it wasn't true. They knew it wasn't true. Finally, there is the threat of false prophets who often oppose the true God's messengers. Their messages make them more famous because they're easy to spot. When it comes to real prophets, people tend to be more inclined to trust the predictions of these frauds. False gods may not only exist in the outside world, they can also exist inside of us. A God who is evil, evil. A God ready to strike instead. A God who emphasizes how wholesome and just even when people do wrong, we can ignore him. The great goodness of the Bible and the teachings of Jesus make it clear that turning away from God has consequences, but God is interested in love and grace. God doesn't want anything to be destroyed. He treats his world with love and kindness, not anger or malice. Must know what God is before think about him, talk to him or pray to him. Love and forgiveness are important to him, but it's important to constantly express gratitude, and praise is the only way to prepare for Christ's return. Now I want to know what you think about everything I've told you. Tell me what you think in the box below. Like this video if you liked it, and if you want to keep watch our videos, subscribe to the channel and turn on the alert so you don't miss new videos. Thank you for reading. I look forward to seeing you in our next movie in the name of the Lord, our Jesus. Amen. May the great gifts of God in your life